Okay, welcome everybody. Thank you for being here. First of all, I wanted to thank actually Maro and the rest of the team. Marco, it's incredible job you have done. It's so much work. So thank you so much, Maro and the rest of the team. Really incredible. Thank you. And also congratulations to Summerhill to being 100 years around in this planet, which needs these places of well-being, of light. This is really like pearls, well, in the darkness a little bit. I don't want to be dramatic, but I'm so thankful for places like Summerhill, and nowadays, well, many more, but these are such important places. So congratulations. And thank you very much, Summerhill, for being such a great inspiration for so many of us. So thank you very much. Okay, today's talk is about the importance of nature for healthy development in democratic schools. And the little polemic question here is, are children in buildings really free? So the intention of this talk is to put nature education on the map, to bring it up. As, for example, it's important to talk about free play when we talk about education. We think that nature is a fundamental right for children also, and an incredible important area to grow up. So this meeting is held by Martina. She's somewhere around, and me. I don't see the faces because the screen is splitted, but doesn't care. So we're gonna introduce ourselves first quickly, then we're gonna, well, show a little presentation of our schools we actually work in. Have a little introduction about benefits of nature for child's development. And we want to keep it really short. We want to use this space as a communication space and go quickly through this little introduction and really go quickest possible to an open conversation where we can really have this exchange. And we want to use this meeting as a space for exchange, for communication. So we really want to be brief and to get into conversation with you. So myself, I'm Gabriel Groiss. I'm right now in Tenerife, Spain, where I was born, but I also passed half of my life in Germany. So I was trained in Germany as an educator and worked there since 2007 in education, mainly in nature education. And when we came back to the island in 2016, we started our own little free democratic school in nature, the Playa Escuela. We will see a few photos further on. And I'm also father of 2 children, a 10-year-old girl and an 8-year-old boy. I'm the co-founder and pedagogical director of our little school, and I'm also part of the IDEC council. And yeah, well, that's, I think, the most important. So thank you for being with us. Martina, you want to present yourself?
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for everyone for being here, and thank you, Gabriel, for the introduction. So I don't have to duplicate it. I'm actually from Italy, but have spent the last 10 years of my life in Belgium. And I'm an academic researcher as a professional background, and I've been teaching at the university for quite a long time on critical pedagogies and critical pedagogy applied to history and international relations. And since 6 years, at least, I decided that, well, there was something complicated in education and in the university that I could not solve, and that I had to go back in the whole system to investigate how the whole system of education was working. and it led me to actually create a democratic school that was had a very central aspect in nature as well. This school has been created now 4 years ago, and it's in Brussels. And I'm the coordinator of the school, but this year I'm actually taking a leave. So I'm back in Italy, collaborating with a libertarian school here, which is also in the deep nature. So I'm very happy today to share this moment with Gabriel and with every one of you. To reflect on a topic that both for me and Gabriel is really essential, to the idea of challenging us a bit more about what's the place of nature in our school, and maybe more in general in democratic education. Would it be possible to reflect on that a bit more and possibly change some of our habits that we have been having for so much long time. And as Gabriel was saying, we would like this for be more an open space of sharing experiences and idea rather than a lecture, because both of us, we have so many doubts as well, and we don't feel that we want to give lecture to anyone, rather to have a sort of cross-fertilization of ideas to move the debate further. Thank you very much, and I leave the floor to Gabriel.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so we want to show just quickly a few, the overview over the talk, as we already said. Well, we have like 1.5 hours. We want to go fast through it so we can start chatting and conversation as soon as possible. Okay, so we will see a few photos of our free democratic school in nature here in Tenerife, which is called the Playa Escuela El Médano. Playa Escuela actually means like the beach school, because we are at seaside every day. And El Médano actually means like the sand dune, but it's also the name of the village, the closest village. Okay, so here you have a few images. We stay every morning in nature. So we have like a physical place, which is like a little farm. But anyway, we meet in nature and we stay there from 9 to 1 o'clock. And afterwards, some of the children, not all stay like till the afternoon. Some are picked up for, well, at 1 o'clock already to go home. And some afterwards go to the finca. So we have this concept to combine in the morning free nature, and at the afternoon the farm, which is anyway or still like involved in nature, but there they have also some more cultural environment. Okay, next slide please. Yeah, these are just a few typical representative images. We see here, I think, the little images at the right. It's this, this famous sentence which says that nature is the biggest book you can study. And well, nature is incredibly, well, infinity of phenomena and richness and diversity. And here just a few examples. And every day we discover new things, and it's just so much to enjoy and to discover and also to learn. But I have to say from the beginning that I almost prefer to avoid the word learning, because it's so attached, it's so associated to academical learning, that for us it's much more about the development of the basic personal socio-emotional skills. Okay, but here, I mean, you can see there's so much learning. This, yeah, no, sorry, yeah, go on, thank you. And yeah, and of course, even when we're out in nature, this is an excursion we did. This is, yeah, incredible place. What you don't see here, that this is just by side of a waterfall. And there the girls were sitting and they were drawing and painting and writing. And so you can do this cultural activities also in nature, of course. But yeah, let's go on and be quick. What is the next slide? Yeah, this is our typical classroom. And here, yeah, I mean, every image has so much in, and you see how they sit there on the rocks. And if you compare this to like a classroom with the furniture, with the schools, with the desk and this the chairs, sorry, the languages. So this is something I really want to bring up, because even in alternative education, when we talk about schools, the image comes to us from a building and from rooms with furniture. And even when we look at alternative education, mostly we see kids around tables. And for me, it's really to open up this question and to see, is the room with desks really the natural environment for development and for learning for children? And I think here we see just a few examples how like another classroom could look like. Okay, thank you. Next slide. Yeah, and these are just examples of children moving free. I mean, we could now start in going how the freedom of movement and the open space benefits children, that they don't get like this pressure of the energy which is held back and so on, and all the possibilities to have to explore and develop themselves. It's I think it's obvious in these images. And what makes, I think, what is important, because when we talk about natural education or education in nature, many times it's still like, first of all, reduced to kindergarten. And this was one of the intentions of Martina and me, that not just keep it at the kindergarten age till 6 years old, that we both, our projects go further than 6 years. Ours is, the oldest kids we have now are 11 and 10 years old, and we want to grow with them. So it's not just, because many times nature pedagogy is just reduced to kindergarten age. And it's also many times still from a conventional perspective of education, where is the directed learning. So this is the important thing to us, to really take consciousness that nature offers a whole new dimension and makes self-directed development even, maybe I would say, easier or more flowing than maybe in rooms. And this is a little bit the discussion we want to have later, that if we put children into buildings, even in democratic or free schools, that the surrounding, the environment is already pre-designed, pre-established. They're already like channels for the activity of the kids. If there are books, if there are desks, if there are chairs, if there are any kind of material, this material has most of the times some intentional design, and the children's activity is like already channeled a little bit. Okay, so our intention here is to bring democratic education and mix it, or well, bring it together with nature education. And as I said, many times when talking about nature education, people get images of children painting letters on stones or counting with sticks, and this kind of like teaching activity in nature. You know, we take the conventional teaching and bring it out into the nature. And yeah, more and more we take consciousness of the importance of free play. But anyway, most of the natural or schools in nature are kindergartens, and most of them, even if they have a big part of free play, still have this intention of teach children. Okay, but I'm gonna stop and go on with the next slide. Yeah, just another beautiful image. We could, for example, also talk about gender roles, the importance of nature as a neutral field for gender roles and so on. But just go through it. I don't want to hook up, because if I start working. Okay, thank you very much, Martina.
Thank you, Gabriel. Gabriel and my school have quite a lot of similarities, though we live in a very different natural environment. Both school, it's in Brussels, in Belgium, very big and urbanized city, capital of Europe. So we are not close to the beach, and very different surroundings, but still nature, it's at the heart of our project. As I was saying, Boss School was created 4 years ago, and we host around 20 children from 3 to 11 years old. There is a total self-directed learning approach, and children join into weekly meetings to decide the organization of their school life together with the adult staff. We are lucky to be in Brussels, but in a very green area. We have a little building that is around 8 hectares of protected forest and farm. So our children have the opportunity to see beekeeping, to be around sheep, to have contact with chickens and pig and a lot of other animals in a quasi-structured nature environment, so the typical farm and the protected forest. And then from this protected area, we can go to the really wild forest, where we go every week. Last year, we decided in the school meeting to go every Monday to the wild forest or to do other outdoor excursions. But in any case, we are every day outdoor, and our approach has been to not differentiate the indoor and outdoor space and make the children believe that the school it's only one big space, but trying to transfer as much as possible the emphasis on the outdoor space in order for them to be more and more confident there. And so here you can see 2 little girls helping themselves on a tree, testing their balance, and the two boys writing something on the trees. Here again, we have free play and relax and observation of nature during our school time. And here in a very different season, it has been a very freezing winter, and we have been outside all the time enjoying the days of snow, enjoys all the change of weathers and the different season that nature can give us, and exploring the differences of our outdoor setting with the children. And that's our outdoor circle, where we have our school meeting every week, and the circles in the mornings. And another nice thing that I want to say, but we will probably talk later on, is the cooperation between different ages that happens so naturally when you are outdoor, because it comes very spontaneous that everyone helping each other, and sometimes the elder one are there to sort of to protect, to guide, and to assist the little ones. And here we have a trip that we did to the seaside, because besides being outdoor in our area, what's our goal is actually to explore different environments, and the idea of traveling, of having adventure days is also very central in order for our children to understand, to take contact with the life, the real life outside our school. So we went to Ostend in one day of the seaside. And that's one of the meetings with all the extended school community in the forest. So now from the more empirical part to the more, let's say, theoretical one, we have seen that there has been already a workshop or a lecture yesterday night about the importance of nature and the benefits of nature in child development. So I don't think we should be long on that, but we could refer to that. But here it's just a little summary of what we Gabriel and I myself showed in this in the picture. Gabriel was saying, indeed, we don't use the word learning, we don't use the word teacher, because they refer to a system that we don't really want to, we don't want to use. But for me, the concept of nature as a teacher is still really important, to understand that being in nature, we can really learn a lot about ourselves and about the others and about the external environment. And it's a bit like, as permaculture says, that if you understand nature, you understand how to live happily with the least effort as possible and with the maximum of abundance. And I guess for our children, that's a great lessons if they can learn how nature works. So there are so many things, positive effect of nature, not only for democratic schools. And here in this little flower, we try to summarize that. It's definitely a space of freedom and a space of to be able to learn so much about ourselves, about who we are, what we like, and having all the freedom of exploring. As Gabriel was saying, there is no predetermined space, so it's all about children's interest and curiosity. And this helps a lot nourishing the different intelligence that we have. We know that every one of us has a different way of approaching life and learning. And in nature, you can really do that. Not only the naturalist intelligence, definitely, but it's nourished the interpersonal, the intrapersonal intelligence. The logic, the visual, and the corporal, the kinesthetic intelligence are all nourished when we are in nature. So for every children, we know it's different. Every children has a different path, but in nature, definitely he or she can find their own way of understanding themselves and growing. There are so many also research about how much nature improves the self-esteem, resilience, and self-confidence. So that now it's pretty much well known. It helps the physical activity and the general well-being, and I guess every one of us experiences how we feel after a walk and a trekking in nature. And definitely in this moment in our situation where climate changes are so important, also making children and having an environmental consciousness, it's very important. And in nature it happens normally without having them to study that. It's just they sympathize and they get they understand that the cycles of nature and how to protect it. And finally, it was what I was saying is in nature, cooperation comes quite autonomously. And so we see that emotion also, it helps and as understanding ourselves, understanding the emotion that links with the others. Gabriel, do you want to add something in here?
Yes, I just shared a link in the chat, which you can see. I took it out of a book. It's a German book where they got a whole bunch of different studies about the benefits of nature for children. And they listed it in a table, and I translated the table to English and just shared it in the chat if you want to have it, where it's very beautiful summarized.
Do you want me to put it?
I already put it. It's in the chat if you if people want to get it later. It's already there. Yeah, and remember, as you already said, yesterday evening, Matthias Knust from Chile already had a talk about benefits of nature. So there you can also, this is going to be like published in YouTube channel, so people can have a look there also.
So probably what's more interesting now, it's, was anyone talking? I heard.
I just wanted to add to what Gabriel said, that the recording of Matthias' talk is already available. If you go to the organizer, you can see it.
Perfect, thanks. So probably what we could be interesting to analyze now is actually what are the benefit of exposure to nature in a democratic school environment. So, and Gabriel and myself, we have been reflecting about that, how probably the nature can mitigate some of the difficulties that we face while living in a democratic education and while working in a democratic school context. First of all, and we already said that, nature is a rich environment that is not structured, and this allows children to really unleash their curiosity without any predetermined space done by adults or by other children. It's happened quite often, for instance, in my experience at school, that mostly elder children wants to change the space in school, and there are some of them that maybe might have a lot of influence, and so there is quite sort of determined way that the school and the things are portrayed, and might be that lesser shy children have not autonomously the courage to say, you know, I want to put this, I want to put that, and I want to do that. So whereas in nature, you don't have this. In nature, every kind of children is nourished, from those from the explorers to the runners to the climber. Everyone has his own spirit, and it's actually portrayed. Another things that we have been reflecting on is the fact that, for instance, in my school, but it's, I guess, in several democratic schools, there are always a percentage of children with special needs, children that were not probably accepted in state schools, and that find a welcome environment in our schools. Sometimes it's not very easy for them to find their space. Sometimes it's difficult to be in the common moments. What we realize is that above all, for children that might be in the spectrum of autism, for instance, it's much easier to be outdoor, and much easier to be with the other children outdoor. Really, in this sense, nature mitigates that much the difficulties of interrelations. We also had another experience of a children that for the last 2 years after that came from last year, and he was suffering very much of headache and stomach pain every day. And we realized that when he was exposed to nature, actually, he didn't feel the symptom. Of children that are diagnosed with ADHD, so and they are and they don't feel at ease in indoor space, but when they are in nature, they can really find they are at ease, they find the space, and they find a way to communicate with others. I know, Gabriel, you also had similar experience.
Yeah, I would, for example, just share a beautiful moment. Just yesterday, we have a boy, he came in new in September now with the new year, and he has a problem with vision. He can't see like probably like downwards, which becomes a problem when it comes to move in nature, especially when it's going like well, like down. And yesterday it was amazing because we were at the shore, and some like rock pools, some natural rock pools, which is an amazing place. It's, well, we are happy or lucky to be on a volcanic island in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, which is of course tremendous, well, beautiful. And there, this situation of this boy, which has like these difficulties to move in nature. And yesterday he, well, jumped the first time into this nature pool, and he was like, his face was like full of joy. And, you know, this is not just about enjoying what this experiences mean for children like that. Well, for all of them, but maybe especially for this, which have like this limitations, that they overcome them and enjoy with the other kids. And I mean, I still get goosebumps, like, and the father was there, and it was like incredible. And this is just one example, you know, and there's so many. And yeah, I just wanted to share that because it was so beautiful. And the way he really, like, you could see like his being like grew, like he becomes stronger, and oh, the beauty of his smile. It was really, really a magical moment. And I mean, and we have them all day, so it's like, but this is just one I wanted to share this. And yeah, we could share another one, what you just said. We had a boy like from the autistic spectrum, and at the beginning he was afraid to come even down close to the sea because of the noise of the wind and the waves. And at the end he was like close to the water and with the other kids, and it was so beautiful to see. And the caretaker who were with him and the mother, they were like, they couldn't believe it, the fast that he made the steps, you know. And this is nature, and this is such an incredible environment. And well, I think we should do use of it. It's really incredible. Thank you.
Thanks. Another point we wanted to reflect is another difficulties that some of democratic schools experience is when welcoming elder children that might have experienced negative experience in other schools. And we see that it's often defined that the first years they are either lost or they are in strong oppositions to adult figures. It's a quite recurring pattern that a lot of democratic school experience, and it's for some children it's easier. It gets easier for them to get into the spirit of school. For others, they just need a lot of time to recover, and so they just need to do nothing and to pass this moment. For others, it's just really a moment of fighting the adult, fighting the what they see as an authority still. And so we have been thinking and realized that when we are in the nature environment, also this kind of patterns are less harsh. The typical boredom of the pre-teenagers that we might have seen in democratic school, it's much less emphasized when you are in nature, maybe because they see different things, they are more interested. But also when this is not enough, and I was just recently discussing about with another school in Belgium, when the nature is not enough, then we could imagine these adventure days, you know, when we really go hiking, when you really go doing something special, when where really you put yourself in discussion, and that's something that really helps to make a bondage with the children and with the others, and to also maybe break some distances or difficulties of pre-teenagers that are entering in democratic schools. Don't know, Gabriel, if you want to add anything on that.
No, yes, as you said, it helps a lot to channelize many energies, and it's so many possibilities. And as I experienced the same many times in the last years, and it's yeah, it helps a lot.
And the last point, it's maybe the most controversial one, is distraction from screens. We know that it's a recurring discussion in democratic schools whether the access of screens or not, if limiting, if not limiting, but in any case, is a huge source of discussion. And we all realize that when we are in nature, we don't need the screens. And actually, it's much helpful, our eyesight, that we can look very, very far away instead of looking at a screen, and that is blocking our sight. And so it's we find it really positive even in this way. Anyway, there might be also the possible tension between nature and the democratic school environments. We have already said that the idea of outdoor in our head, it's always the one typical of the forest school, no sort of scoutist approach in which we have the guide, the mentor that explains what to do to the children, and then they will do. They will paint the leaf, they will do mud kitchen, and then I think this creates the typical ambiguity of, okay, no, it cannot coexist with democratic education. But I think we can, we really need to make a step more and see actually how we can move from this directed learning to self-directed learning and using nature in the context of democratic philosophy. Another,
yeah,
yes.
If you allow me, is at least my impression, what I've seen from many nature schools, and if you look like at the typical Facebook groups of education nature, you see many photos with activities with materials. It's like about the adult brings materials into nature to do a certain activity, and this is what I have to say I'm critical about, because it's still this approach of like, we teach you something, and even if we're in nature, which is full of materials, we still bring the materials there, and it's all about like doing something like with materials. And this is, I think for me it's really important to change that view, this perspective, because and this is where I think that the free self-determination and self-determined development perspective of democratic education comes in, which is so powerful when mixed up with nature. But yeah, let's go on, let's go home. We have to come to the conversation.
Yes, we are almost there. Definitely another important point that we need to touch upon is we are not only lucky to be close to nature. So the geographical distance from nature, it's definitely something that we should reflect upon. However, I think in the context of democratic school, we are very lucky to the fact that we can go wherever we want with our children. We can move freely around this place where the school is. Talking with the classic school teachers, about outdoor learning. Well, they told me, we have 10 days per year that we can go outdoor on a field trip. We need to plan it in advance. We need to have insurance. We do need to have a very strict number of adults per children. We cannot go wherever we want. If it's rain, if it's not, we have to cancel. So all these kind of things normally we don't have in our school, where we have a much bigger possibility of choosing with our children what to do. So this could actually mitigate the problem of geographical distance if we are interested in travel, in making excursion with our students. And last but not least, actually, is probably the biggest tension that we have been raising while discussing about nature and democratic education is actually, are we forcing children to go? Is okay to force children to go outdoor? And are we forcing them? Are we limiting their power of their freedom of choosing if we ask them to go in nature, if we propose them an outdoor space? I think that's probably the biggest point and the biggest discussion that we have when discussing about these two concepts. My point of view about that, and then we can lead actually to the open discussions, is that there is always a sort of predetermination from the creators of the school. There is no way that the school happened without a limited predetermination. It can be the choice of where the school building is located, the school of the first staff, the choice of the first staff, the choice of the first fundamental rules of a democratic school. There is always a limited part that is already predetermined from the founders of the school. So if the founders of the school decide that the school is in an outdoor environment, it's the same decision that's deciding that the school is in a huge building in the center of the city with no access of a courtyard. I think we need to be realistic and understand that there is always a part of decision that has as founders of the school makes on behalf of all the school community that will come. And so if this predetermination, it's actually to be more outdoor, it's actually would bring more benefit than being completely indoor. But maybe that's a nice point to open up the discussion. And I leave the floor to you, Gabriel.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't know, you had like the list of questions. I mean, maybe the most important one we really wanted to discuss here, because this is a meeting or a conference, or well, the Festival of Childhood and the IDEC. It's pretty much focused on democratic education and self-directed learning. So this is just a question Martina described. Are we imposing to children to stay outside, or are we limiting them when we decide that they will be inside? You know, and this is what she just described, because not just the founders, the families choose the school, and they choose that the kids will go there every day. And in our case, we just decided, okay, we meet in nature. Other ones decide we meet in a building. So is this imposing? Okay. How much freedom can we really give? Because I mean, the kids get into the routine. Okay, I go to my school, and they don't really choose every day. Okay, today I would prefer to go to the shopping center or to the cinema or to visit my friend in the other city or whatever. They have this routine usually to go like every day to the same place. And in our case, we decided, okay, we meet in nature. And the other, well, more like the building schools decided, okay, we have a building. And here, when we look at the benefits of nature, we want to bring, or me especially, I want to bring up these questions. Are we limiting children when we put them into buildings? Because if we take consciousness about how much benefits are there and how limiting a building can be, and all the material which is like pre-designed. So this is a little bit the discussion we want to bring up, especially. I don't know if you have other questions or aspects you want to bring up, but we just want to open up this conversation. So everybody's welcome. I'm not sure, because I just have like four screens. I don't see all of you. So because I'm on my tablet. So just open your mics, because I'm maybe not going to see your hands or whatever. So I will try, but just let's open the mics and just join in.
Do you
Maro.
want to stop the share screening now?
Yes.
Or do you think it's because maybe
Yes.
we could all see better each other?
Better?
Yes, much better. You can check the chat too if you want. If you can, there are some comments.
Okay, let me see.
From
Okay.
Aparna.
Someone said I have 100 mails to answer. Maro, if you have to leave, please leave.
Thank you. You're already hosts. I'll catch the recording.
Thank you so much, Maro. Okay, here we have from Aparna. Kids will learn to respect the biodiversity that exists in nature, the flora and fauna, but not everybody has access to clean natural spaces and environments. Yeah, we had this same aspect yesterday in the meeting which Matthias offered. I think Emanuela is here also. She was there yesterday and she brought up, are you here? Okay, hi. Nice to have you here. And she brought up the question because she talked about Brazilian cities, which are not really safe. So this is a good question about the environment. Not everybody has the luck to be in a safe and healthy environment. And so this is a good question. And if my perspective on it is, that is true. This is a reality. Yesterday we talked about this also, that 50% of, already more, a few years ago, we passed the limit where half of the human population lived in urban areas of cities. So this is a really social or structural question to me, because cities especially, in my opinion, a very artificial system, which is like highly fragile and highly depending from like surrounding resources. And to me, it's really to question if cities are really sustainable. I mean, they are now because they like suck all the energy and all the resources from the surrounding with industrial agriculture and energy and whatever. But to me, the question really is, how long will this lifestyle, urban lifestyle especially, be sustainable? And there comes the question also, like, here again, the parents decide where to live, if they have the freedom. Of course, this is very critical, because many people are not really free to decide where they want to live. They have like the economical circumstances, and they don't have like really the freedom out of the lack of economical capacity to really decide, I want to live on the countryside or want to live in a favela in Brazil, for example. So this is like a bigger picture, of course, but it's true that it's hard to realize maybe to go out and have nature education if there are dangerous places or dirty places or no nature close by. And I mean, I think the only general thing we can say here, I don't know, Martina, if you want to add something, but it's like to try the best possible. I don't know, if you're in city and you have to take a bus 20 minutes to reach a park, so maybe this is an option, or you know, to try and improvise and search the best solution in your situation. But of course, this is really, really critical, obviously. Totally true.
Yes, and at the same time, I think this is a lesson learned as well, you know, to see that to try with the children to see, you know, together with them, trying to understand, okay, what can we do to go to nature where we are now? How can we go? What are all just reflection on this, I think are extremely rich for a debate within the school forum, within the school meetings, no? Because they also make realize that how far we live from nature. So it might be that it's indeed difficult if we are in a city to reach a park, but it also can also open up a lot of different question and reflection that can really, I guess, enrich the debates within the school.
It leads me to the reflection. I think it should lead us to the reflection as the adults. What lifestyle are we living? Is our lifestyle sustainable? Is the reality we're creating, is it a healthy reality, a sustainable reality? And if we realize not really, and by far not, and we really would need, for example, reduce many aspects of our consumption behavior or whatever, to there start the self-education and to become more and more, how you say, coherent, and to notice, okay, this is not really working, we have to change something and do it ourselves, because this is, we already talked about a little bit about this yesterday, that the education in nature and actually the whole alternative education is doing a lot. But what I see is that many young people in this alternative environments or learning environments, they then go out to the world and there are not many alternatives. So most of them slide back into the conventional channels because there is no reference. There are no like alternative models. Like, for example, which is a very important one to me, and I think it's really like pioneer or like a model to follow. For example, the eco-village model, which is an approach of like sustainable communities. And I think that we should see education, our educational bubble, where it's not just about like good development opportunities for our children. It's about a bigger picture, and really maybe connect this educational bubble to a bigger picture of social transformation, offering to children also alternative lifestyle models, for example, like eco-villages, and to show them, okay, look, we're critical about this, and look how dirty the river is, and look how much plastic there is, and look how much cars and whatever, to have this like critical observation, but offering them like constructive options and possibilities, like, for example, eco-villages, and maybe, you know, do ourselves, if we realize, okay, the way we live is not really sustainable, maybe we should do the biggest effort possible to get into a sustainable lifestyle. Maybe not just creating a little school in nature, maybe to think about to create a eco-village community. Just
and there are indeed interesting experiences of democratic subsidiary schools that actually moved into and created eco-villages. I have like the image, for instance, of L'École Dynamique from Paris, that they actually from the École Dynamique, a group moved to the countryside and the village because they actually wanted to experience 24 hours a day the life and the rules of a democratic school within a sort of eco-village, so within the all extended community. And with that, there are many other examples of this, just saying that that indeed should be the democratic education should lead to this open approach to outside of you know, of only the little circle of the school. We have some questions or remarks that are really interesting.
Just wanted to mention very quickly, I wanted to reach out to them, but to invite them to the festival, but I didn't get it on time, to mention the GEN, which is the Global Eco-Village Network. You can look it up, and there is like the, I think, well, they're more or less organized there. It's GEN, Eco-Village, Global Eco-Village Network. So I think we could maybe, yeah, connect the educational movements with this kind of movement too. Just to mention it. Thank you.
Yeah. So there is a Farna that he's saying, here when I say we have parks and there are bugs and malaria and mosquitoes and disease like dengue. I lived in Sacramento, California for 20 years there. We have huge green parks and I used to take my kids to learn in the parks. But here in India, there are spaces limitation and population is very high. So yes, I guess it's repeats a bit the point we were making, that everyone does the best within the possibility and within the geographical time space that lives, and with a lot of creativity as well, I guess. We are not lucky to have opportunity to have a forest around us, or but I guess if there is the willingness of connecting with nature, we can find creative ways of doing this, and diverse. And also to add that when going to forests, we're going to nature, for instance, of course we don't have malaria, so we are really lucky about that. But there is always a percentage of risk that we take into account. For instance, we always have ticks, and ticks can bring disease, and we got this kind of disease. For instance, we got the Lyme fever and things like that. So this is also something that we take into account when takes this path, that is also the management of the risk of the unknown in nature. Of course, once again, we are talking from a very spoiled positions, because we don't have malaria, things like that. So maybe it's a very privileged talk, that the one I'm making here now.
Yeah, but I wanted to ask, because I traveled when I was younger through Asia, well, Southeast Asia, and it was also a malaria area, but the children were outside anyway. So I wonder if, because when we talk about these areas, I mean, kids spend time outside, don't they? So I wonder a little bit, okay, makes it such a big difference if they spend like 3 or 4 hours a day outside, because they're gonna be outside anyway at the afternoon, maybe? I don't know. It's just, I wonder how this is, or in these places, children are inside all the time, during all the day, and they don't go out. I don't know if...
Hi, this is Monisha here, and I'd like to add a different perspective. I'm also from India, and my son goes to an open school, a democratic school, and they have figured out a method by which they actually enjoy being outdoors with any, at any excuse, they find ways of going outdoors. In fact, first, when they go to school in the morning, all the kids first go to the park, and they go walking to a park. The park is not part of the school campus. And they go to the park, they go to a lake where the water is dried up because of various reasons, and there are, mosquitoes, or there are challenges. But the children go see that, talk about it, and deal with it, and see, and they actually talk about how to improve that situation. And maybe they will grow up to figure out ways where that same lake will have water and will be free of mosquitoes. And, so it's a learning in itself. And besides that, in this school, the building is just by the way, it's there. And it's a very free-form building, and they have a big banyan tree outside, and half the time, all the kids are just on the banyan tree or running around in the ground outside. And when they really want to participate in something, it may not be inside the building. Sometimes it's outdoors. So it depends on what the activity is, and they go in and come out, and nobody is anyway expected to be in a enclosed space if it is not their choice. And the very key thing that the school operates based on is they do lots of treks and travels and tours, and every day and every parliament meeting, they're only planning, and children plan where to go next. And it could be to a different city, to a different seaside place, or a mountain, or so I find it amazing. And we, the parents, will always have our heart in the mouth thinking, oh my God, is my child going to be okay? And will they be fine? A 6-year-old climbing this hill. But they're always fine. And we all have to take the risk, even if they were going with us as parents and as a family for an excursion or a trek or a trip. An accident can happen anywhere. And so our parent community and our facilitators and the children, we are all aware of the risks involved. And life is a risk. So you have to go ahead and live it. And being part of nature is key to being normal, So these children plan, and they plan, how many buses are required. If 50 kids have to go, is there a big bus and a small bus, and who's going to sit where, and who is the partner with whom? So there's so many other things that is part of this planning, and they do it themselves. Everything. The school is run by the children, and they plan everything meticulously. And they, in fact, have a sheet which goes around the school saying, next week we are going to, this place. So who all want to go, they have to sign saying, I am going. They don't need a slip from the parents saying that I agree. So my son would come and tell me that I am okay to go. Till a certain age, he was like, I'm okay to go for an outdoor trip, but I'm not okay to go for an outstation trip. And he knew the difference, because an outdoor trip typically meant he goes in the morning and he's back home by afternoon or evening. And it was outside the school somewhere, climbing a hill or whatever. But an outstation trip meant they would have to stay overnight or 2 days or 3 nights, or, it was a further away place. And some kids his age still wanted to go, and other kids had a choice. They all choose by themselves whether they're okay to go or not. So like when you were talking about, the adults not interfering in their choice, it is amazing to see how kids can function and make their choice and, take full responsibility for it.
How many children, may I ask, how many children and which ages are there?
So there are children from ages from 3 to 15. And they are just they have, a system of electives by which they do their classes. So they just choose a subject at the beginning of a semester and they do some demos. And the children make a choice of which elective they choose, and then they attend those for that 3 months. And then the next semester, the subjects might change and the children might choose something else. So it can vary from dance to physics to experiment to crochet knitting to anything. And it's amazing to see how they function.
Okay. But they have to sign up to some subject.
They sign up on their own, and they have different kinds of methods. They have clubs, they have electives, and they have something they call as corners. So in these different formats, in corners, the children know they are free to go in and out. It could be a math corner, a science corner, or a dance corner, but they are free to go in and out of it. They just know the time slots that it's happening now. And but an elective, they know the difference. If they sign up for an elective, then 10 o'clock on Monday morning that elective is happening, they must show up for it. Or they have to let the person know that I am not interested anymore and I'm going to discontinue. So, yeah.
And are they free to do nothing also?
Sorry?
Are they free to do nothing also? If they just want to hang out or play football?
Yeah, they do nothing. Yeah, my son went to that school for, he's been there for 5 years now. He's a 9-year-old. And for, I think, 3 years, he just ran around the campus and attended nothing. He just but when his friend is going to look at a map of the world and thinking, oh, here, where this is Spain. So it interests him. He goes, looks at that and comes back. That's it. Or if somebody is doing pottery in one corner, they go look at that and come back. And maybe next time they will want to join pottery. So it's really quite free form. And there are many kids who love to join and they are there for every session and they want to be in all the classes, even if it is not, going on at the simultaneous time. They tell somebody, no, how can you put science and math together at 9 o'clock? I want to be in both of them. So there are all kinds of children. And so you have to facilitate for them. to make sure, oh, he wants to be in both these, so this timing has to be changed. But
Yeah,
nature, sorry to keep to your discussion, nature and going out for trips and travels is a big part of the school.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, sorry, Martina.
No, I just was curious about the name of the school, so we can.
Yeah, it's called Be Me.
You can write it in the chat.
Could you write it in the chat?
Yeah,
or the
I'll
link?
put it in. I'll put it in the chat.
I mean, I wanted to comment that it seems to be a little bit like inside democratic schools, like there are like two currents a little bit, which the ones which like offer a certain kind of programmation where the kids can join in, which seems to be a little bit more the Summerhill model, and the other one where there is no programmation pre-established offered, which seems to be more the Sudbury model, to call it a little bit with some known schools. So this is an interesting discussion which has been around, I think. And I mean, connecting it to nature here again, because I know that if you offer this kind of possibilities to children and, for example, activities and materials and stuff like this, that of course, many of them will enjoy it. But my critical perspective about it is that you get them used to consume, to get like to a more consuming position that they can like use and like the entertainment they get offered. And of course, it's like beautiful stuff. But for example, we consciously don't do it to get the children like more self-creative and to have their own initiative, not just to make use of what they get offered, to get like into their own responsibility and say, okay, I'm bored, so okay, what do you want to do when you're bored? You know, for me, it's okay that you're bored. So this is a little bit the difference. And I think when it comes to nature, it's especially interesting because this is the thing. When we're in buildings, there's like so much material, like cultural material, which is channeling this energy. And in nature, I think when we only in nature, not okay, we can choose between a building or outside. I know that many children would be like, it's easier for them or more comfortable to sit inside on a couch and just look through books. This is more entertaining, or to grab the tablet or whatever, than like being outside and maybe being in a more challenging environment, which is nature maybe, which is not so entertaining like a school building. I don't know if I get my point. So this is exactly the critical question we want to bring up here, you know, because yeah, children can make use of this offers, but I wonder if a children which like has to be outside and like get himself active and take responsibility of getting done, so do something. So this is a little bit the question here. And this is what of my experience, saw many children where I knew they would be like maybe more comfortable in buildings with this kind of offers. But after a while, when they like developed, for me, it's very clear that the benefits were like very big to them, because I had children which were typical, like, yeah, maybe they would be into books and stuff, but being outside, they had like to enjoy also the sea, for example. And these were kids which were afraid of crabs and of fishes, and they didn't want like to be at the sea. But after 2 months there, they got like the impulses also from other kids, and suddenly you see them enjoying themselves in the sea, in the ocean. And I wonder if these kids wouldn't have been exposed to to wild nature and had the option to stay like more comfortable on the couch, would have they connected to that part of their own being where they like be able to like grow strong and enjoy nature, even if it's sometimes nature is sometimes very rough. And this is a little bit what my concern is about, that I know I immediately think about a few kids where I know that they would have not developed this enjoying themselves in nature and this self-esteem and this strength if they would have this option. Okay, I could be inside just having a book in my arms on the couch. I don't know if I get my point, but yeah. Some comment on that? I don't know. Still there?
I'm there.
You're here.
Yeah, we have question from Jet. Say, I wonder about walls. If a school, for example, was to be largely outdoor space with some human designed area, gardens, mud patches, ponds, streams, shady tree areas, etc. At what point is it too manicured? At what point is it too wild?
Martina, you want to go?
Well, I think it's not about being too wild. I mean, I don't think there is, for me, the wildest, the best, to the extent that the least say human print you have, the more original the outdoor space is. It more gives space to curiosity, to fantasy, to exploration. The more you structure the outdoor space, the more you create it with human intervention, the more you predetermine it, and so you somehow channel children interest, right? So if you I can, as I was giving the example of my school, we have a very nice garden where children can do what they want, so build, construct, etc. But then we have the farm, we have the bees, we have the cave, we have the lake. So all those spaces are kind of predetermined with predetermined activities. Whereas when we go in the very deep forest, they have to invent everything. So there are no bees, beehives to observe and to work on that. There are no, chickens to feed. It's everything. It's on their opportunity. I mean, there is not the garden that you have to water on. So everything is open to the imagination, and I think that's. If we talk about self-directed learning, that might be probably the best environment ever to experience it. But once again, I think we are talking about very abstract and idealistic sometimes concept, because most of us live in city, most of us live in. The human have come sound of I think worked and denaturalize all the outdoor spaces. So we do what we can with what we have. I think that's at least my point of view.
Yeah, and if I'm allowed to add to that, I using the word wildlife, because even if in a park maybe you have some birds, in a garden, yeah, but the wildlife, the wild animals you find out in nature, you usually don't have them in this kind of gardens, or very little. I remember not just here on our island, when I worked in Germany, when we went out in nature, and you suddenly some deers, right, jump out of the bushes or stuff like that. And this kind of situations you can't really recreate. Or when you go to a little river and you see the birds, like I don't know, like so many situations which is like wildlife. And this is not a garden. And there is a bit difference between wild nature and like garden or parks, which is already good, of course. I worked in Germany in a school which had a very beautiful garden, but it's not the same to be in a big beautiful garden with big trees than in a forest. And for me, especially the wildlife, the animals you meet there makes one of the big differences. So yeah, I think, as Martina said, then wilder almost than better. But of course, nature is already very spoiled, and it's not easy to find like how you say, yeah, well, pure nature, or like virgin nature is almost not existing anymore, but well, we do our best.
Thank you both so much. It's very late here, so my question was maybe not clear or a little bit esoteric, but the conversation from it has been very helpful for me and very interesting, especially about wildlife and wildlife encounters, because I'm in Thailand, and if you had land, if you had a space and you chose to leave an area wild, it would be quickly too wild to explore. It would be densely filled with all kinds of different plants and bugs and creatures and snakes and impenetrable, really. So I think about leaving an area like that in a garden or in a school area and seeing to have that nearby, because going to wild spaces is of course very valuable, but then having them close, maybe on campus, is what I was thinking about.
Yeah, I mean, it's part of this kind of schools to read the conditions, to read the landscape and search for the best places, I think. And yeah, the conditions are very, very different and very, very diverse, and there you have to see what is possible, as we said before, like do the best out of your possibilities. And there's a capacity to really read the nature, and therefore we have to be connected. You have to know the risks and the possibilities, and this makes a huge difference. And this is one of the problems, that many people already lost this connection to the wild nature, so they don't feel secure, they don't feel safe, and unless they feel safe to bring children out there. So yeah, so it's part of this schools to their own capacities and the capacity to read the landscape and find the possibilities, if they're there. I don't know. Thailand, I've been in Thailand and Malaysia and Indonesia, and well, I don't know where you are and how it is, but I can imagine it's difficult. And then maybe you have to look at the ages. For example, we have a group which is from 1.5 to 3.5 years, and they are not with us in nature because here the terrain with the volcanic rocks is too hard for them. We couldn't like take care of them. You would need a one-to-one how you say ratio. And so they are like in the mornings they're in the finger, in the little farm we have, and when they become 3.5, they come to the older group, to the nature, because this is when they're more or less fit enough to climb on the rocks without falling over all the time. But they go on walks around the farm we have. They go out because there the landscape is a little bit softer.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. I think someone else mentioned earlier their child also getting to say at what age or at what capacity they can go to certain parts of nature or take that further step into the wild. I think it was about an overnight trip in the previous example, but I appreciate hearing about the structure. Is it child oriented, this 3.5 age thing? They say now I can go, or are they kind of pushed at 3.5, like give it a try?
We decide together with the parents, with the team, and with the child itself. We like have a look, and usually they want. When they are old enough, the younger children become a little bit not so attractive anymore, and they want to take the step. We sometimes visit each other if it's like, for example, in our area, sometimes it's very windy. And when it's not windy, we can go to the beach where it's sandy and it's easy for them also. So we try to get the groups together, and they usually look forward to become like, to take the next step. So we don't push them, but we look together when is the best moment.
Excellent. Okay, thank you so much.
The school in Italy I'm visiting now, has more or less the same approach. It's a very, very wild forest, but there are two separated buildings for children from 2.5 until 6, but it's not very strict. It depends on when the children are ready to go to the building of the elders. That it's then from more or less 6, 7 until until now they're 13 years old, but they're gonna be elders. And the building of the elders, it's really, really in the wild. So you have deers, you have wild boars, you have snakes all around, because it's a forest that hasn't been touched by humans before they came here. So the elder kids, they decided to do once a week exploration of the forest, but and of the surrounding area that is full of volcans, and sometimes also the youngest they join, but they ask for permission, because there is sometimes it might be very difficult for a 3-year-old to 15 kilometers in a day, so they ask for permission to the group, and if the group accepts them, they can join. I think we are running out of time.
Yeah, we have 4 minutes more. The thing is, after us, there's nothing programmed. So if someone else wants to say something or bring something up, we can do it. I don't know if someone else, I would love to hear some more voices if you want to. Otherwise, yeah.
Don't know if you can hear me, but I would like to thank you again for sharing so much. And I've been watching this on the car, because we're actually at the beach at the moment. So we do that once a week. So I would like, even though yesterday I was mentioning that it is a violent city, we do get scared about security, but I always try, like, at least once a week to get them a whole day out of the house and in nature, whether it's possible. When it's not possible because of the weather or some other reason, then we do something else in the city as well. But it is very important for the children. Like, I have my 7-year-old there by the sea by himself, and he's enjoying jumping waves and things like that. And
you're homeschooling, right?
Yes, they're homeschooling. And they learn so much from this that we don't even notice. I only notice when they bring up questions or they tell me things like, oh yes, of course, I know. Like, a couple of weeks ago, he told me, this is the Atlantic Ocean, right? And I don't know where he got that information from, but he knows it. And they also connect a lot with being more responsible about the environment. So all the time they are collecting plastic bags. I never told them to do that. I never even invited. It was their initiative to start doing this. Whenever they find any kind of trash, they bring and we put in a plastic bag and we take it like to the proper bin, or we take it home so we can separate it. So it's natural learning, and this is very difficult when they have to go. My older one, the 7-year-old, he decided he wanted to go back to his school last month, and I enrolled him in a school. I tried to choose a more comprehensive and more project-based, but he didn't get adapted. It lasted for 15 days, and he said, I can't play. I can't interact with my classmates. I can't do anything that I like. I have to sit down when the teacher tells me that I have to improve my handwriting, but I don't want to. And could I go back home and learn with you again? Can you be my teacher again? He asked. And I said, well, yeah, you chose to go to school if it's not good enough, and I understand. You need to play. It's understandable. So we are back in homeschool and in a completely free way, like self-learning And I think it's worth it, even though we have a law issues in Brazil that is not there is no regulation, but I think it's worth it.
Thank you very much for sharing. Jason, do you want to say something?
I don't know if I can actually show you a little bit the beach.
Oh. Beautiful. We're on the other side. Jason, go on. Thank you, Manuela.
Do I want to say something? I've only just come. I don't really know what you're talking about. What's the subject?
Okay, you just come in. Sorry. Now we were talking about education in nature.
Ah,
no,
interesting.
I thought you opened your camera and wanted to say something, but go on if you want to.
Well, I've been working with a nature school, so it's kind of interesting, the history that a lot of people don't understand. That they think that it's a new idea, but it's a very old idea. Nature schools and forest schools, they're very old ideas, and certainly in Britain they go back to Cuthbert Rutter, who was working between the two wars and set up a forest school. And unfortunately, in his forest school, the children all learned in the forest, and it was a very ambitious curriculum they had, and they were very competent. And when the Second World War came around, they were good soldiers, and they all died in the Second World War. They went off the war, and the school couldn't survive afterwards, so it closed. But it's very interesting. It's contemporary of Neil, Cuthbert Rutter, and it's very interesting. And then the history behind that as well is that Cuthbert Rutter comes out of a tradition, a Canadian guy called Seton, and he started a school. He was a famous artist, and he started a school because he wanted to connect some young adolescents who were vandals, and they were vandalizing his property. And he'd had a lot of experiences with the Sioux Indians, because he'd been out as a naturalist drawing. So he'd been with the Sioux Indians. And he set up this thing called, what was it called? It was called Woodcraft Indians. And he showed these young teenagers how to use traditional tools, how to build a fire, how to cure meat, how to make their own tools. And Woodcraft Indians was like the beginning of a nature school idea. And that idea of going back to nature, away from urban life. Urban life was destroying people, and young people needed to go back and understand things that they could do in nature. So, yeah, it's all very fascinating. Sorry, anyhow, go on.
Thank you very much.
We actually missed a bit of historical framework, so thank you very much for references to that.
Well, I mean, you can go further back as well. I mean, if you go back, because Seton, his family came from Hull, and they are part of the Romantic tradition in the UK. So William Wordsworth, in his poetry, he talked about his growing up. In the prelude, he talked about growing up as a natural child. He talked about growing up in nature, and that's a strong part of a certain kind of British culture in the Romantic tradition, is growing up in nature, in contact with nature. I guess, these days it's very difficult to maintain that, because people don't believe in the same things anymore. But yeah. But Wordsworth talks about the inbreathing spirit. So he thinks that you can learn from nature, that nature will be your teacher. And you don't need to learn from textbooks, that you can learn directly from nature.
And I think especially the connection to oneself's being, right? I mean, when we are in like urban and civilized spaces, we get like distracted. We have many things we can hold on to it, but we're not exposed to manage maybe so much ourselves as we do in nature, and the connection to ourselves. It's not just about connecting with nature and learning from nature. I think it got a lot to do to connect with ourselves. And I'm not sure if we do it the same way we do in nature. We do it like when we continuously in buildings. At least this was my experience for myself. And what I observed with children, that when we continuously in these cultural spaces, we like distracted all the time. And the pureness, or is this right to say, the pureness of nature gets you back to yourself and makes you connect in another way with your own being. And this is, well, sounds a little bit esoterical, but at the end it's about mental health and psychology. I mean, sounds a little bit like.
No, I don't think it sounds like that at all. You know, because work in nature, it doesn't have to be nice. There are lots of really horrible people that loved working in nature. Hitler Youth, Boy Scouts, it's all about getting in touch with nature. And it's militaristic, it's hierarchical, they give you badges. So just because you use the word nature and you value nature, it doesn't make you necessarily somebody that well, I would want to be involved with. So the word nature is not synonymous with good. You know, it's not nature good, culture bad, in my opinion. You know, I mean, there's other things that are involved as well.
Thank you very much, Jason. Where are you?
Where am I? I'm in Spain.
In Spain? Where
Yeah.
in Spain?
I'm in the north of Spain, in Asturias.
Ah, I'm in Tenerife.
Ah, very nice. Yes, good.
We have to get in contact.
Yeah, why not? Why not? I'm not getting on an airplane anytime soon, but
Nice to meet you.
Yeah,
Gail,
you.
I wonder, did you want to say something? Yeah, are you still muted? I don't hear you.
Oh, I was having trouble. I don't know if you can hear me now. Just a second.
We can hear you. Now
Oh,
I
good.
can hear you.
Okay, no, I just came in late because I was having troubles logging in, and it took them a while to fix it. I'm in Canada.
Welcome. Okay, we're just closing. I think we're about to close. If nobody else looking around. Okay. ¿Qué dices? Okay, so thank you very much. Martina, do you want to say something else?
Well, I also want to thank you everyone for this rich conversation. It was very nice. I was hoping for having a bit more of challenge and controversies, but it was actually quite smooth. I guess we all agreed and we all have very similar viewpoint on actually the benefit and importance of nature applied to democratic education. But I thank you everyone for the inspiration you gave us, and we look forward to see each other in the next workshops.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I would like to point out, make some publicity that the talks I take part tomorrow, co-host with Edwin from Colombia. There is a project starting which is called like the Alternative University, which is a new university project we're gonna present. And on Sunday, we're gonna talk about UNESCO's future of education. They preparing like a paper, and there was already a progress update, and we preparing a response to that, because there are some statements that we think need to be clarified and well completed. And on Tuesday, I think it is about theory of democratic schools. We're talking mainly about definitions. Do we need a definition for democratic schools, and what is a democratic school, what is not, and this kind of things? Do we need a theory of democratic schools? So I just wanted to point out that. I mean, there's a lot of incredible stuff going on, but yeah, just to mention it. So yeah. Thank you very, very much, and see you around.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye-bye.